Hey there, welcome to Go Lofty Radar, your shortcut to smarter strategy, sharper decisions, and startup success. We're here to support your journey. Made with care by the Go Lofty team. Let's talk vibes today. Is it just hype? You know the joke, right? A marketer who can't market the product, and an engineer who never finished the MVP walk into a bar and decide to start a vibe startup instead. Because hey, who needs a business model when you've got brand identity and aesthetic lighting? But seriously, behind the meme, there's something very real happening in the startup world. Founders are increasingly building companies that start with a vibe, a community, an identity, a feeling, and then figure out the product. So is it brilliant positioning, or just lipstick on a blank Google Doc? Here's what's coming in this episode. What is a vibe startup, and what makes it different? Where did this trend come from? Why are some VCs paying attention, and others running for the hills? What are the risks, and what are the rewards? And if you're a founder, how do you know if you should ride the vibe wave or steer clear? Okay, so what is a vibe startup? At its core, it's a company that leads with narrative, identity, or emotional resonance before the business model or the product is mature. It's storytelling first, shipping later. Think, a community-led skincare brand that launches on Instagram with mood boards before R&D, a crypto social app that rides memes before solving real utility, or a fintech tool that gains traction not from ROI, but from cultural alignment. Human brains are wired to follow emotion before logic. That's not just pop psychology, it's neuroscience. So when a founder says, "We're not just selling project management software, we're giving burned out teams their time back," they're tapping into narrative value. But that's where it gets dangerous too. If there's no foundation behind the vibe, the entire thing collapses. Let's rewind. You could say vibe startups are children of two forces: the DTC era, where brands like Glossier and Warby Parker made aesthetic and community everything, and the creator economy, where you build an audience first, monetize later. Throw in Web3, Discord, Substack, and now AI agents with personalities. Suddenly the vibe is the MVP. Now, let me put on my VC hat for a second. Here's why vibe startups are interesting and risky. They acquire users cheaply. They often move fast with product-led growth. They can raise with momentum and story. But also, retention is usually weak. Monetization is fragile. And once the buzz fades, so does the business. Let's be fair, not all vibe-first startups are fluff. In fact, when used correctly, this model amplifies a great product. It works in consumer tech fashion, plus wellness creator tools, certain vertical SaaS plays, especially when community is key. But try to run a vibe startup in enterprise software, fintech, compliance-regulated health tech, and you're going to have a bad time. You can't sell good energy to a CIO. At some point, someone's going to want an actual roadmap and ROI projection. Take Farcaster, crypto-native Twitter alternative. The vibe was freedom, censorship resistance, open culture, and it worked for a while. But the app has had to shift toward utility fast, onboarding, UX, feature gaps, because the core community isn't enough to scale. Another classic, Yuga Labs, creators of Bored Ape Yacht Club, a cultural storm. They built status, exclusivity, even celebrity tie-ins. But the challenge? Turning NFT hype into sustainable gaming, metaverse, and utility layers. That's the real company building phase. At the end of the day, here's the VC truth. Vibe accelerates distribution, but execution decides longevity. Founders who win don't just tell a great story, they build amazing operations, refine customer fit, and scale intelligently. The problem? Valuation bubbles. We've seen companies raise at crazy multiples on community metrics and aesthetics, with no revenue. And when the next round hits, they can't justify it. The vibe didn't mature into a business model. So what separates a real vibe startup from a vanity project? They build community and product in parallel. They track metrics that matter, not just engagement. They have a clear monetization hypothesis, and they keep investors close to the real KPIs, not just the branding deck. Thinking of starting with a vibe? Run this checklist. Do you know your early adopter psychographic? Can you ship something valuable in 90 days? Is your branding aligned with future product scope? Do you have someone on the team who can build, not just brand? Can you survive without raising hype-heavy money? Let me be clear. Vibe is not an excuse for lack of traction. It's not a replacement for PMF. It's a positioning accelerant, like brand steroids, that only work if the muscles are already there. Even if you're not building a vibe-first startup, here's the key takeaway. Storytelling matters. Identity and emotion drive early decisions. You can start with community and narrative if you treat it like a wedge, not a crutch. So is it all hype? No, but it's often misused. A vibe without substance is just noise. But a vibe with execution? That's brand equity. That's loyalty. That's traction with teeth. If you're building in 2025, the best thing you can do is understand both sides, the narrative layer and the operational layer. Go. Lofty is here to make sure you don't miss either. Thank you for watching.